Welcome to Women Talk Construction. I'm Christi Powell, and with me today is my co-host Angela Gardner. We're thrilled to be here today to talk about an industry that builds structures and it also builds dreams and opportunities. Construction, architecture, and engineering and supply in the LBM industry is so vital. At Women Talk Construction, our mission is to highlight the stories of women who are thriving in these industries. And also, we believe in showcasing that all the careers are viable and enjoyable. So today, let's welcome Amber Little. I met Amber. She's with Nation's Best. She is the Chief Human Resources Officer, and she had a retreat in Texas last year that I was able to go to. I was honored to be able to be there with a lot of amazing women in the LBM industry. But that retreat was specifically for women and helping them grow in their leadership. And I'm so honored that I was asked to be there. It was an incredible event, but really inspired by the fact that this is important to Nation's Best. So we're really fortunate to have you on today, Amber. And tell us a little bit about yourself and where your passions are.
Well, thank you, Christy. I was so excited to be here and so thankful that you were able to come speak at our retreat. So thank you so much. And nice to meet you, Angela. So like you said, I am the Chief HR Officer for Nation's Best. I've been here a little over 4 years. So I started in October of 2020, which was such a fantastic time to start in the middle of COVID. When I started, we had a little over we just started our 12th acquisition. So if you know anything about Nation's Best, we grow by acquisition. So we had just done our 12th acquisition, a little over 100 people. And right now we're over 64 acquisitions or 64 stores with a little over 1,200 people. So we've grown dramatically. And in that time, obviously I've been passionate about growth and bringing our cultures together, but also super passionate about expanding women in the LBM industry. And so that's kind of where my passion has been over these last 4 years.
I love that. Christy came back and she was all full of stories and just wonderfulness about your group. And I have seen and heard a lot of these women retreats now that are popping up, and I think that's very special and needed because we need to share these stories with each other and uplift each other and gain more confidence and just insight around how to move around some of these either challenges or opportunities, which is probably something that y'all address a lot at your retreat. So diving into that, what unique challenges that you've seen for women that face in leadership roles with the IBM industry, and how does the Women Leadership Retreat address these challenges that they face?
Absolutely. So these challenges were the reasons that we built this retreat. So one of the biggest things when I came into this industry was that I was hearing from women that they were having a hard time proving their experience and credibility, which was interesting to me because some of them had been in this industry for a really long time. So, we're acquiring these stores, and some of these women had grown up in this business. And so they have been here a long time. They had been in this industry a long, long time, yet they were still having, a hard time proving their credibility and their expertise. And so they lacked that self-confidence to be able to do that and to showcase that knowledge. And they were also telling me that they were afraid to speak up because their ideas weren't taken seriously. And I was really concerned about that. So that was a big challenge that they were facing. Mm-hmm. And I think another thing that I was hearing from them is that because there's a lack of women in these leadership roles, they were having a hard time finding role models and having networking opportunities. And so because of that, they were feeling isolated and off on an island. And so I had also felt that way at times in roles in my career, and that's the worst feeling.
It is.
And so I was wanting to fix that for them. And, on that same token, this industry thrives on those informal networking opportunities,
yes.
But those are traditionally male-dominated spaces. So, I'm thinking hunting trips, fishing trips on the golf course. And, I'm not saying that women can't go do those things, but traditionally they're uncomfortable or, honestly, sometimes they don't get invited. And
Mhm.
so they're having a hard time, finding those networking opportunities where they can advance their career because they just weren't having those opportunities. And so, those were some of the challenges that our retreat was trying to address, along with things like still work-life balance that women, are still facing, the big workload, juggling that and, things at home. And then also just having more of a tailored leadership development opportunity that was through the lens of a woman. They just need something different, not
Right.
just a standard leadership development training program. And so our leadership retreat was really trying to address all of those things, but specifically for just women. So taking men out of that equation so they could really just feel free to speak up and, express those challenges in a really safe space. So that's what we were trying to do. And so I wanted to give them that opportunity. But if I was going to take them away from their workday and I was going to take them away from their families, I wanted to make it very intentional and make it very value added. I have 3 kids. And if I was going to be away from my family, I wanted to make sure I was going to get something out of it. And so I wanted to make sure that my women were doing that as well. And so I designed it purposely so that they could disconnect, they can recharge, but also they were getting professional tools, they were getting personal fulfillment tools, but more importantly, a supportive community of women that could uplift them ongoing. So that's kind of what I was going for.
So my question is, what aren't you doing to attract top talent? Okay, so that pretty much explains what my next question was. But honestly, attracting top talent is probably on the top of our priorities in every business right now. It doesn't matter if you're in the LBM industry or if you're in tech or if you're a general contractor. Hiring top talent is difficult, right?
You
Top
should
3.
share that stat we just heard.
It's top
In
3. Yeah.
2028.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, so maybe you've heard this. That in 2028, we're going to have a trouble because there's less high school students graduating. It's a huge problem like that we don't even realize. I think it's 2028, right?
It was
Or it's
2028.
2032, but it's coming.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah. And
and
we
it's
just heard
scary.
that from Ace Mentor of America this week. So yeah, that was something that was mind blowing. It was like, I haven't even heard that stat, right? And we already know we're going to be 1 million people down in our industry by next year. And I can't imagine 2 years later us having to deal with the less people coming into the workforce completely, right? For every workforce. So you've already explained some of your innovative strategies that have been effective in the LBM sector, and that's just for women. What else are you doing out there that's really pulling people in and getting top talent in your organization?
Well, obviously, being an inclusive environment is one of them, but not just for diversity. When I talk about inclusivity, I'm really talking about also being inclusive of everyone in the environment. So getting feedback from them, but also being transparent with them so that, we're hearing from everybody. And so that's one thing that I think is really unique to what we're doing. But I think the other thing is we try to really appeal to both their logical and emotional needs. And so this year, really the end of last year, we really started thinking about providing meaningful benefits from kind of 5 different pillars. So we talk about obviously their physical wellness with our health insurance programs, our wellness programs. We put in a few different wellness programs, weight loss programs, physical therapy programs, things like that. But also things like emotional wellness, things like mental health counseling, things like that. But also financial wellness. Obviously salaries, 401k programs, the standard. But new things that we tried to do starting last year was social wellness. So things like more team building, more engagement. We try to do something monthly for our stores engagement wise. And it may be something as silly as, National Chocolate Chip Day, Chocolate Chip Cookie Day, and something around that.
I like that.
But also career wellness. So we try to do rolled out training programs that were specific to their needs, both both personally and professionally. So we try to kind of do those 5 different pillars, so we're appealing to both their logical and emotional needs of those candidates. And so that's kind of what we've been focusing on, that I think has really helped to be able to talk up the kind of benefits that we're providing that aren't just money driven. I mean, that's important, but that's not what these candidates are only wanting.
Right. So what do you think the biggest mistakes in people management are right now?
I think kind of the biggest thing that management's doing is just hiring for short-term need. So just filling that short-term gap. And so, I mean, I find this with my managers still, and we're just trying to get them to slow down just a little bit, right? And I know it's hard when you're you're shorthanded and you just need to get somebody in there quickly. I get that. I've been shorthanded, and you just want help. But in the long run, it's not helping you, right? And so just taking the time to identify future skill gaps and develop that internal talent, create that future pipeline of leaders. But then when you're hiring externally, actually using an assessment to find the right individuals, also hiring for, try to hire the right fit for your culture in your store, and just making sure that you're stopping and slowing down just a little bit to hire the right person. So maybe they'll stay there a little bit longer.
Yeah.
And so I think that's one of the biggest things that I'm seeing. I think another thing that I'm seeing is that I'm seeing people or companies treat engagement as a reactive issue rather than ongoing. So if you're addressing low morale and turnover after the fact, you're not prioritizing engagement from the start. And so that's just not helpful. It has to be something you're doing and you're putting into your culture from the start.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's so important.
Great tips.
Yeah, I love that career wellness. I mean, and you're going to attract a lot of the younger generation with that point right there. They want to see that.
They do. They want career development programs. They want career pathing.
They do.
And we've tried to create our training program where they're in control of that, so they can decide what kind of path they want to train and take. So they're kind of in control of that.
They want to grow.
They do, absolutely.
Or at least see a path. Everyone just wants communication. I mean, that's so simple, right? And you're doing it beautifully.
They do. That was when we did our employee feedback survey. That's one of the biggest things that we heard is we want to hear more from you. We want more transparency. And so we actually started doing what we call a weekly timber talk. And so it may be just simply hearing from an executive team member, or sometimes it's one of the executive leaders going out and visiting a store and talking to a manager. Showcasing a store maybe somebody hasn't seen. When you have 60 plus stores, obviously a manager hasn't seen everybody. So you get to see a new store, or showcasing something that one of the stores is doing really well, or something innovative that they're doing. And so they're getting to kind of see, if I'm in California, let me see what the Florida stores are doing. And so I think that's been really helpful. So our stores are really enjoying that.
Yeah, that's so important. And those are great examples. And it really needs to occur more. And I know that, coming from a family business and understanding that sometimes leadership sees things as when you're being authentic or vulnerable, you're giving away secrets. And that's not the case.
Right.
I mean, you just shared several that you're not giving away any secrets, so you'll build more trust with your people if you do
Absolutely.
that. So how your background is diverse. How has your unique background equipped you in your role as in this HR role at LBM in the industry? How has that helped you? And even maybe give some advice if there's a young person wanting to seek out the same path that you took.
So of course, my background is very different. I did go to school and got a master's degree in industrial organizational psychology, and some people have no idea what that is. I don't, my parents sometimes don't even know what that is still. But I just kind of say it's business psych, right? And so I I went and did that. And then after that, I went into consulting, and I consulted for the Department of Defense. So I worked for naval officers, and I spent time with submariners, which was a very interesting path. But after that, I kind of bounced around to different industries. And funny enough, each of those industries a lot of them have been very male dominated industries. And so I think that's really prepared me for LBM, and to be in this role and to be able to understand women in this role and to understand where they're coming from, but to also be able to work with all the people that I work with in this role. And so, I mean, I have the HR background. I mean, to be in a CHRO role, that's a given, but I think I've been in these unique roles that have kind of prepared me to be where I am today. I think back to when I interviewed for one of my roles earlier in my career. I was sitting in a mahogany boardroom at a big long table with 12 men, and I was in my 20s. And so I was
Wow.
interviewing
Good
with
for you.
12 men, and I got that job. But later, it was funny. Later, they told me, we really liked your background, but we hired you because your answers were concise and you didn't ramble on and on and on and on. And I'm like, that's interesting.
That is interesting. I'm glad
interesting.
you shared that with our audience. Yeah.
But yeah, I was in my 20s, and that was interesting and kind of prepared me for the minds and thinking thought processes of who I was working with, right? But I bounced around a lot from different industries: hedge funds, financial services, oil and gas, the Department of Defense, and the military. And so I've worked with all of those different industries that have traditionally been male dominated. And so I think I can hold my own when it comes to working with this sort of environment, which I think has really helped me and prepared me for this role. But I also hope that I'm making a difference in kind of narrowing that gap and trying to bring women into this field.
You definitely are.
Yes.
So give us the stats of how many female leaders you have on your team.
Oh gosh, it's grown so much since the last time that I've
really, that's
that
amazing.
I've done it. But right now we are just women in general in our organization, which I think is fantastic. It's 60-40.
Oh, wow.
Women in our organization in general.
60-40.
It's 60% men, 40% women in our organization in general. So we've been working to grow that. But on our executive leadership
That's an amazing
team,
number.
We have 12 executive leadership team members. And I'm trying to think now. You caught me off guard with that question.
Sorry.
I haven't looked
Well,
at it.
I can tell you what it was when I was at the leadership retreat, and it was phenomenal. If it's better than that now, it was 33% leadership team.
Yeah, it's grown. It's that hasn't changed. The leadership team hasn't changed.
Okay.
But we have worked to get more into management roles,
Nice.
into our store management roles. So we continue to try to promote from within in those roles, and just promote from within in general, regardless of if they're women. We're working on our managers conference where we do our awards for the year, and we do a Rookie of the Year award, which not necessarily new to management, but just new to our management role. And a majority of those were promotions from within, which I just love to see.
Yeah.
So it's fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, you're leading the way when it comes to percentages in the LBM industry by far. It's not just a small margin. The amount of leaders that you have, the percentages, the amount of management that you have, percentages of women, and then the amount overall that you have, percentages of women. And so that's why it was so important for us to get you on the podcast today, because we want others to hear, what it is that you're doing to be able to create an environment, where everybody feels welcome and they feel like they're growing and they want to stay there. Everyone I got to speak to at your retreat loves their job. You don't get to hear that everywhere, right? They love what they do. They love being at the retreat. They love what Nation's Best is doing for them every day and their families. They don't feel super stressed out. Being at the retreat didn't stress them out. Taking somebody away from their role for a couple of days is a little rough for us in this industry, right?
Sure.
But they did not seem stressed out. And I think that speaks volumes to what you're doing for your people. So thank you very much.
Can I just point out one thing?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, everybody, can you, did you hear Amber say how she tracks every little thing down to management,
Yes.
people, leadership? Amber, we can't tell you how many companies say they track this and they don't. And to the detail that you do is amazing. So
Yeah.
Well,
if
thank you.
you need
It's all about
information,
the
reach out
numbers.
to Amber.
Yeah,
Well,
it is all
you
about the
understand
numbers.
it.
Well, thank you. I'll have to go back and look at how many managers now are women, because I've lost count
I'd be
of that, and I
curious to
need
know because I
need
was
to redo
impressed
that
with the
stat.
smaller number.
Yeah, I need to redo that stat for sure.
So, you've implemented and managed the growth of numerous stores in the last 5 years, 4 years actually, because we're only a few months into 2025. What were your key strategies when you were having to go through all this growth? You're still going through it, right? There's still, I'm sure Nation's Best is still considering more acquisitions. So what are your key strategies for the continued growth, but what got you from 12 to 60 very quickly?
Well, from an HR perspective, when I started, it was just me and one other. And she's fantastic, and I couldn't do it without her, but we needed to grow there as well. And so that I have a fantastic team now, but I had to grow that team. And so my strategy there was to grow that team with diverse backgrounds, just like my team was diverse. Because I found when I am creating any team in my career, I wanted to make sure it was from diverse backgrounds so they could bring diverse perspectives. And so my HR team is made up of oil and gas, hospitality, even academia. So just like my background, they bring so many great perspectives of what works well, what doesn't work well, which I think has really helped as we've implemented really everything from scratch.
You've got a lot of input, right?
Absolutely.
From different areas, and it just helps you grow faster and you can collaborate easier and things just happen. Growth just happens.
Absolutely. And they're a fantastic team. I can't give them kudos enough. I think the second thing that we did just as an organization was we had to build a support team, which most people call corporate, right? So we don't call it that. We call it our support team. We stay away from the corporate word. But we built that team, and we really tried to build it and hire people that embodied our motto, which is the stores are our customers. And so we wanted to really focus on people that we brought in that actually meant that and actually lived by that. And so we built the executive team and our support team. And I mean, our stores really count on those people. So that's our accounting team, our HR team, our IT team, all those individuals that support those teams. And again, our stores are our customers. They are the support team's customers. So that was the other big thing that we did, was really build that team. And they're all over the country. They don't just sit in one spot here in Dallas. They're all over the country. So they can get to our stores quickly if they need to. So that was another big thing that we had to do to continue and expand our growth. Obviously, we had to implement and invest in systems and processes to streamline our acquisitions, but we had to learn along the way. We didn't get it right the first time.
Right.
So each and every acquisition, we still continue to learn. So we take feedback from the store managers we bring on, from former owners, and from frontline staff. And so we are consistently and continuously adjusting our approach. We learn something new from each and every acquisition. And so we don't just say, nope, this is how we're going to do it.
Right.
We use best
So
practices from everyone. And we try to tell our stores as we're acquiring and bringing them on, we want you to tell us how you do it. We take best practices from each and every store. But then we're trying to build consistency too, right? So in our structure. So we have an RVP for each region. That RVP really goes out and tries to build consistency among those stores with store visits, with manager meetings. We do manager meetings in our regions. We bring them together once a year, all of our managers together. But it's difficult, but we're trying to take all these cultures from all these stores and kind of blend them into one Nation's Best culture.
Nice.
And each store has their own little flair, obviously. but we're trying to blend them into one nation's best culture and kind of build some consistency there. So we're trying to do that with our organizational structure and sending, having one RVP that goes out and kind of spends time with each of the stores in their regions pretty frequently. And so I think that's really how we've managed to do it, is that it's our support team that really goes out and spends a lot of time with these stores, and try to helps them through the process and handholds them, but also gains all these best practices from them, so we can come back and say, hey guys, we're not doing this the best way. Let's think about it again and maybe change what we're doing a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Well, this has been a wonderful conversation, Amber, and having you share with our audience all this inspirational information.
Mm-hmm.
Share with them how to get in touch with you if they'd like to learn more.
Absolutely. Well, you can email me. It's alittle@nationsbest.net. Absolutely. Shoot me an email, and we can chat for sure.
Great. Thank you, Amber, for helping us showcase, our amazing industry and so many, the wonderful people in it, because we do need more people.
Yes.
And that's what we're doing today. We're lifting up with vibrant stories to help others see what a great industry it is. So stay tuned, everyone, to Women Talk Construction. And if you don't already, sign up for our newsletter so that you can have us in your inbox once a month. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Amber.